Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and I am joined this week by Don Pizzette. Don, how you doing?
I am doing great. Just attended an audit conference, which was way more exciting than you'd think an audit conference would be, but ready to get back into Technado.
It actually was. The panel discussion was really good, and it was good to hear some new ideas. And Daniel, how were you?
Doing great. Got to film some CEH V11 episodes for IT Pro TV today, so always like moving the ball forward on that.
That is certified ethical hacker?
You nailed it.
Oh, right. And 11 is
We're
after
on
10?
version 11, yes.
Okay. That's fantastic as well. And we are joined today by a special guest, Andrew Useckas, who is the CTO and CISO over at ThreatX. How you doing, Andrew?
Not bad, not bad.
That's the best that you can ask for, I feel like, these days. As we're dealing with having to, start going back into the office and stuff. Yeah. Where are you joining us from, actually?
I'm joining you from Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, Colorado. Wow. See, now I'm jealous when it's like 99 degrees and 99% humidity. And we had a tropical storm yesterday and
That was fun.
Just a whole mess. But
it's hot here today as well.
Well, you're hot and are hot. I feel like.
A little different.
Yeah, humidity's up to 5%. It's out of control.
Don't know what we're going to do with my hair.
Well, let's go ahead and
Around
jump.
20%.
20%? Okay. Well, yeah, that's almost bearable.
Sweltering,
Yeah,
even.
I have a fan in front of me right now. and Daniel and Don are extremely jealous.
We're inside.
Yeah. You wouldn't know it.
No, you wouldn't.
All right, our first segment where we get to know Andrew a little bit more is rapid fire questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, Andrew, in this segment, what we do is we rapidly throw questions at you. You'll see a timer appear on the right side of your screen. You'll have approximately 1 minute to answer each question. If you take too long, you'll get buzzed.
Oh, like this?
Like that.
Like that?
Hey,
Very timely. It'll take an extra 20 seconds,
Yeah.
and then it'll get buzzed.
Which eats into your time.
That doesn't come out of his time.
And then we'll move on to the next question. We are going to rotate between each other, so the first question is coming at you from Peter.
So I looked back and I said, ThreatX, that sounds a little familiar. And I looked back and we did actually talk to somebody from ThreatX about a year or so ago. But if you could go ahead and for those that maybe missed that episode, give us a little bit of an overview of ThreatX.
Yeah, ThreatX is a web application and API protection platform as a service. So we take what they call next generation approach, basically a new approach to how you deal with the web application security. So instead of looking at binary signatures and thinking, okay, this looks bad, allow it. This looks bad, block it or allow it. Instead of that binary approach, what we do basically, we track the attacker over the lifetime. And we make decisions as to, how bad the activity that they're doing is. And then based on all that cumulative activity, we assign the risk score to them. And once they reach a certain amount of risk, then we take certain actions on them. We might target them, we might block them, we might interrogate them.
Now, in addition to your current titles, you were one of the founders of ThreatX back in 2014, and I founded IT Pro TV myself, and I know over time the company changed a lot as it grew. I'm curious for you, how has ThreatX changed since you guys got started in 2014?
Well, first of all, the technology itself changed a lot. I mean, the first version of analytics engine that we wrote was in Python, and we quickly figured out it was just going to be too slow. I mean, we have to process millions of transactions in real time, so Python just didn't cut it. We basically had to rewrite our analytics engine 3 times to actually achieve the performance we wanted out of it. And obviously, other than that, we're not that small of a startup anymore. We're more than 30 people now, so the growth is pretty evident. It's definitely changing for the good.
Now, speaking of your current titles, I'm led to believe that you are now the CTO and the CISO. What does that make your day-to-day life look like now that you're donning those titles?
Very busy. So as a CTO, I basically have 2 departments reporting to me. That's advanced development, where that's where innovation happens. That is also where we fix complex issues. So once we encounter any kind of scalability issues, any kind of issues that we didn't predict, that's where they get solved. And another department that reports to me is the Security Operations Center, the SOC. So yeah, I'm pretty busy from CTO perspective. And then CISO is more mundane. It's, compliance-based stuff. So we're SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. And obviously we have to keep up with our security posture. We are a security company after all. So we have to do all your, quarterly scans, yearly pen tests, and make sure that everything is running smoothly. So that's what I do daily, I guess.
So I saw a headline the other day that that ThreatX raised some pretty significant capital. So you're kind of in that growth mode right now. So what do you see on the horizon in the next 6 months, 12 months for ThreatX?
Yeah, so one of the first things that is expanding, obviously, is the headcount is increasing. So we're definitely adding, over the next 12 months, we're going to add a lot of headcount. In addition to that, technology is improving as well. Obviously, as you know, security is a cat and mouse game. So attackers constantly come up with the new ways of breaking into things, and so we need to come up with the new ways of stopping them. That is never going to change. So having more money to increase our capabilities is a fantastic thing to do. And obviously, the last thing is scalability. So we need to scale faster and more globally. So all of that is going to be helped by this round, obviously.
And so you said you're over in Colorado, but it looks like you guys are planning to open a new office soon?
Yeah, we're opening an office in Boston as well. So we already expanded. We have, I think, over half of our employees are in Boston area at this point. So we're a two-headquarter company, if you will.
Fantastic. So what would you say is the thing that sets ThreatX apart from your competitors? Because I feel like when you go to a show like RSA or Black Hat, you see a lot of companies that say they do similar things. But what is it that sets you guys apart? Yeah,
so risk-based approach that allows us to keep false positives very, very low is obviously one of the main advantages. Other than that, our SOC as a service is basically what we do here as well. It's really hard to find AppSec resources these days. So us acting as an extension of your security team is something that our customers find very helpful. They don't need to craft their own rules. They don't need to deal with web application attacks on a daily basis. That's something that we take care of for them.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I know Andrew better. You guys good?
Yep.
Good. All right, perfect. Well, I know, he seems like a very happy guy, great demeanor, but there are times when Andrew just gets upset. And so let's find out what triggers him there in our next segment, Grinds My Gears.
You know what really grinds my gears? This Lindsay Lohan. You know what really grinds my gears? You, America.
We now go to Peter for You Know What Really Grinds My Gears.
Thank you. All right, so I know there's the 7-layer OSI model, but it's layer 8 that really ticks you off sometimes. So what is it? And that layer's people. So what is it about that layer that upsets you?
It doesn't matter what kind of security controls you deploy. It doesn't matter what you do. You can have the best endpoint detection. You can have the best web application firewall, best firewalls, best whatever, It doesn't really matter as long as you have people. So as long as you have somebody sitting in the office and clicking weird phishing emails, opening scams, and clicking on and downloading executables, it's just not going to work that well. So the question is, how do you really solve it? I mean, if you look, for example, at the ransomware attacks now, I think the top major attack vectors that we're seeing is, first of all, web applications. If somebody left some bad code in the web application, hackers will find it eventually and they will exploit it. And that's where we come in with our solution, and we kind of protect against that. And the other is phishing attacks, and that is a much more difficult thing to solve. And in the past, I've obviously been in CISO roles before. I've done mock phishing attacks, different security trainings and things like that. And it doesn't really matter how much of that you throw at the organization. It still seems like you still have the weaklings there. So somebody is still going to, click on a phishing email. And especially if you're an older infrastructure company, like the recent ransomware attacks, the pipelines and meat packing plants and things like that. It's all flat network. So you don't have to get into admin's computer. All you have to get is, some workers' computers. And then you can pivot from there, because obviously, a lot of people still don't pay attention to patching or to internal network, internal security posture at all. It's, all free for all once you get through that initial firewall.
I do love the irony here that, we're saying, people are the problem. Like, let's just get rid of people. And then you're adding headcount, opening new offices. So, you got to drink.
That's what grinds my gears. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you're upset. You're like, all these people, these are all opportunities to fail.
I feel like it would be like that Brewster's Millions part where he was running for mayor and this billboard says, I'll only make things worse. And that's a promise.
Exactly. Don, what were you going to ask?
Well, I know I've put together a few end-user security awareness training programs before and tried to roll it out. For me, the biggest challenge was I knew people had limited attention span. So I had to pick and choose what were the most critical things that I could teach these people, knowing that I would only get a certain window of attention. But what is your take on it? Like, is there a way to build an effective training program, or should we just give up on that and rely on other security controls to protect us?
Well, that is a great question. And I think, I don't know if there is an effective security program out there because, we do the same here as well. We have quarterly security training program. So every quarter we're going to send half an hour video that, people have to watch. And then they have to pass a basic questionnaire, and it's not that complex. And still, have to hound people every day at the end of the quarter. You have to do the security training. They have to do the security training. And it feels like, once they pass that questionnaire, they forget about it. They no longer care about it. I think what helps is the decentralized nature that, COVID-19 created to where people work from home. So you're not really sitting inside of the firewall anymore. You're not VPNing into your internal network and then doing everything from there. So that kind of, paradigm shift caused all these new security vendors to think about, how can we protect that remote worker? How can we protect mobile worker? And that gives the security risk is lower, I think, because, if you're working from your home and somebody breaks into your laptop, they can't get to the internal servers from there. So there is a bit more protection. But yes, I think, we have to have more security controls, and training is not going to really solve it in the end.
So basically make a more secure network so that we don't have to worry about layer 8 being a problem.
Or just decentralize it. Decentralize it. Why do we even need the internal network? Why do we need this, corporate firewall? What does it do these days? Everything is in the cloud. Just go into the cloud.
Yeah, Google has been pushing that pretty hard with their Zero Trust initiative, where they basically say, like, we don't have an internal private network. Everybody's treated as external. When I log into Gmail to check my mail, it's not like I VPN into Google first, right? I'm just treated as untrusted. So if we treat all of our company workstations that way, then you don't need some of those other technologies. So I could see that working, but in my experience, a lot of that does work, but centralized management becomes a challenge. Inventory tracking and all those other things, which sometimes can work out well over the cloud. A lot of those systems are designed to expect you to be on the same network, using multicast to find printers on the network, and that doesn't work so well on a VPN. So there's additional challenges that get introduced with it. So
all I hear is Don's afraid of hard work.
Yeah. That's what grinds Don's gears.
Well, absolutely, there are challenges.
Hey,
there will be challenges, but I think it's challenges that can be solved.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like with the proper training and these technologies that those things can be addressed. I do want to address real quick. I know I said the tropical storm did come through yesterday.
This is Tropical Storm Part 2.
Yeah, if you can hear that, it's not a train driving through the studio. We are
being flooded as we speak.
Actual cats and dogs being thrown on the roof of the building right now. So we'll power through though.
Yeah, we persevere.
So in terms of, it looks like we're getting back to a little bit of normalcy, and you guys are attending. Is it Black Hat coming up? That's actually in person this year, right?
It is in person this year, yes, and we'll be there. Booth 1971. If somebody wants to check us out, 1971.
When is that? Is that in July? August? August normally, right?
Yes, this is beginning of August.
Beginning of August. Perfect. So, yeah, check that out. Booth 1971. Good year.
Excellent year.
I wasn't around.
Yeah. Neither was I.
I was told it was a good year. Don, was it a good? No, just kidding. And you guys are also releasing a new API assessment. Is that something you're doing at Black Hat, or is that separate?
I think some kind of release is going to be done at Black Hat, but it's being released in parallel. And yes, it's obviously APIs are becoming more of a pain point at this time. So we're releasing this tool or part of our dashboard, part of our main tool that allows the customer to fingerprint all the API endpoints. to basically figure out, what is exactly going on with the APIs, because a lot of, companies don't know. They might have, all kinds of rogue endpoints going on out there. They don't exactly know what's sending what and where.
Sure, that makes sense. So if people want to find out more about you guys, they can head over to ThreatX.com. And I know we talked about the office in Boston and the expansion there. So you guys are hiring. Head over to ThreatX.com/about/careers. And you
said
can get on
careers,
board.
right? Yeah.
/about/careers, yes. Yes, Daniel will be needing something soon. Did your light just go out? You look very like Phantom of the Opera right now, Daniel. No? Okay, whatever. We'll get those lights turned up for you. Don't worry about it. All right, Andrew, we want to thank you so much for coming on and venting with us and sharing all the good news going on with ThreatX. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, and stay tuned, everybody. We're going to take a quick break, maybe let this storm pass, and we will see you back in a moment right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.
This is Josh. Josh spent $2,500 on a week of classroom training for CompTIA A+ and got certified. Josh got a good job that pays $40,000 per year. This is Jeremy. Jeremy only spent $299 on a full year of training from IT Pro TV, including A+ and 300 other courses. Jeremy also got a great job that pays $40,000 per year. Jeremy used the more than $2,200 he saved on IT training for a fabulous tropical vacation. Now, Jeremy is still using his IT Pro TV membership to study for Network Plus and Security Plus to advance his career, but not spending any more money, since all three are included in his IT Pro TV membership, plus 300 more courses. Don't be like Josh. Choose IT Pro TV for your IT training.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette. Thank you so much to Andrew for joining us and telling us really about all the things to be worried about again. And making me want to replace all the employees with robots.
Yeah.
And luckily, I don't have any say in that.
Yeah. Not IoT robots, because then they'll just be hacked and become a part of a botnet.
Right. Yes, air-gapped robots.
That's right.
I'm sure you'll be perfectly safe as someone who works in marketing. There's no way that could be automated or replaced with robots.
Robots can't do creativity.
Neither can most marketers.
Zing!
Unless you give them enough elderly medication. So they can,
That's right.
then do
That's all
it.
you need.
Unless you have old glory. Take care of you. All right, let's take a look at the news right now. Our first article comes to us from tomshardware.com. Sonnet launches DuoModo Thunderbolt 3 expansion boxes. The new enclosures allow to attach AIBs to Mac Minis and TB3 notebooks. DuoModo sounds like something that Motorola would have come up with.
Yeah.
But it's DuoModo. So what exactly are these? I'm not sure I completely understand this.
All right. So when you buy a Mac, so that's kind of where we start this whole journey, right? So if you don't buy a Mac, you don't care about this at all.
You take out a loan, right?
Well, I shouldn't say you don't care about it, because these actually can work with Windows. I have used one on Windows before, but they're really designed for a Mac. When you buy a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, you buy a Mac Mini, they are no longer upgradable. Right? You have no room to add in any extra hardware or add-in boards, AIBs. So if you want to add a high-end GPU, you can't. If you want to add in a fiber network adapter, you can't. You've got to hope that you can find a USB one or maybe a Thunderbolt one that you can plug in, but you've got really limited options. And so what the DuoModo boxes do is they basically give you external PCI Express ports or slots that are able to connect into the Thunderbolt bus. Thunderbolt is fast enough to be able to carry the PCIe traffic. And so they've released a few different models, and one model is just a box that has basically enough space for 3 PCIe cards. Although if you've got like a high-end GPU is going to take up all 3 of those spots. So you might not be able to get 3 cards in it, but then it's Thunderbolt to your machine. So you could add a high-end graphics card to your Mac Mini or to your MacBook. But they're not really designed to hook to a laptop. Things that come and go. PCI is expected to be there at boot time, so it's a little sensitive. But many people still use, Apple discontinued Macs as a server, but there's still a lot of people out there who use macOS as a server. They'll take Mac Minis and rack them up. Well, they have a DuoModo box that has room for a Mac Mini and room for the PCI Express boards, and it's rack mountable. So now you can basically get like a macOS server if you want, even though Apple doesn't release one themselves.
I just feel like the whole time you were telling us what we would want to do, and then Apple saying you can't.
Yes.
It was just like, I want a high-end GPU. Straight to jail. Right.
Yeah.
I would like to add some storage. Right to jail.
Yeah. Surprisingly, yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of sad, if you use Windows or Linux, you could do this with off-the-shelf components, not a big deal. But in Mac world, you've got to go and buy this proprietary hardware. It's very expensive. I believe they start at $600.
What?
And that's just for the box.
just for the case.
But if you can afford a Mac, I mean, you're good. So, so I've seen a few of the hubs that people can attach that seem to take like both of the Thunderbolt ports on one side. Does this need more than one port? Because you're saying it is fast enough, but at the same time, that's a lot of stuff, I feel like, to be going off of potentially one port.
So most of the hubs will take 2 ports.
Okay.
Because 1 port is what they're connecting all the other weird ports they have to. So it might be
The HDMI, the USB.
Yeah, the old style USB, the headphone jack, whatever else so that's taking up 1. And then the other is usually a pass-through Thunderbolt, so that if you're plugging in a Thunderbolt monitor, because you can daisy chain Thunderbolt monitors, but you can't do that if you've already split the port off. And so that's why they take 2. Some of the really cheap ones will do a pass-through on that second port for the power adapter, but you shouldn't have to do that. If it's a high-grade one, you won't have to split that off. So so that's why they take 2. In this case, it does just take 1 because the device itself has its own power supplies. And depending on which one you buy, it might have 1 or 2 power supplies, but it just takes 1, and you could daisy chain off of it.
So you could have a lot of these going. I mean, they show it in the rack here in the photos. So you could have several of these like cooked together and all coming back and have like a really powerful gaming or editing station as well.
Yeah, I think the one in the picture is actually showing multiple Mac Minis. So if you were to have like 10 Mac Minis, you want to stick a GPU on each one of them. Maybe you're trying to create a render farm or something. You could do that, but it wouldn't be like you could hook 10 GPUs to one Mac Mini. That you would eventually saturate that PCI bus.
Okay, Don, I want you to sell me on this. Why would I not just go, I'm going to get rid of all my Mac stuff and go with an off-shelf solution with a PC-based solution and just do that?
So there are some companies and businesses out there that have gone all Mac. And if you're in an all-Mac environment, then you like things like Time Machine. And so you want to be able to do Time Machine backups to centralized storage. You want to use Xsan and all that Apple-only stuff. And so in those scenarios, you want to stick with it. And Apple used to support that because they had the server add-on. And now the server add-on has been like completely crippled down to just the profile manager. So it's not super effective anymore. But people still do it. Yeah. And there's a market for it. This is really targeted to people who are doing graphics editing, AutoCAD, people who need a GPU, right? This is how we stick on a high-end GPU and not just what Apple offers you out of the box.
So if I'm hardcore sold out for Apple, that's why I'm going to do this.
Yeah, but
I'm not sold out. If you're bought in,
if you're Bitcoin mining or you're a gamer or whatever, you just don't use a Mac. Yeah. Yep.
Though I bet with China's change in their stance on Bitcoin mining, there's a lot of cheap hardware out there you can buy right now. That can't use.
Yeah. There was one of the Bitcoin mining companies announced they were halting all sales of new equipment to give all these Chinese Bitcoin mining farms a chance to sell their used equipment now they're not allowed to mine anymore. Yeah.
Wow.
And so there is used hardware getting dumped on the market. I'm curious to see what happens with all that. But, it's still like if you try and get an RTX 3080 card right now, you can't. The retail price for them is like $1,200, and you go on eBay and they're selling for over $2,000.
Oh wow!
So people are actually scalping the cards because Bitcoin miners have been using them.
So now that all these Bitcoin rigs are going to be open, that's going to flood the market with them, and they're going to drop the price.
They keep saying that, but it's only China that's cracking down. And I know when I say only China, that's like a quarter of the Earth's population.
I was going to say it's a lot of people, Don.
There's still the whole rest of the world where they still Bitcoin mine.
That's true,
right?
And they might just be moving these mines to other offshore places.
Yeah. And just cloud control.
There's an island in the South China Sea. There's just this massive.
Yeah, people are starting to realize how much power it consumes.
Oh, yeah.
And so countries like Iran is going through this, where Iran's like, they have mostly state-subsidized power.
Right.
And when they're having blackouts and things, they're realizing, wait a minute, it's because we're pissing away 90% of our energy on Bitcoin, and we need to rein that in to actually support our regular people.
Listen, I need that Ethereum, baby.
Yeah. I need my air conditioning. I live in Iran.
Yeah.
I think that's more important. All right, well, let's get back on topic in our next story here from arstechnica.com.
Yeah, we did go way off on that.
Yeah, we did. I'm sorry. I cut us into a whole new... I mean, that's a big story this
It was
week,
worth the
though.
ride, though, I think.
Yeah, it was good times. All right. CentOS replacement distro Rocky Linux's first general release is out. And the CentOS co-founder's new distro hit general availability today. And today was, what, yesterday?
June 21st.
June 21st. So Fantastic. So is this one that we should try?
So 2 weeks ago, we announced how Alma Linux had their first release, and they are designed to be a RHEL clone. They take the Red Hat Enterprise Linux source code and compile it to give you basically a CentOS replacement. Many people have had to move away from CentOS because it's now not aligned with RHEL like it used to be. So Alma Linux was one of the first ones to have major funding and a company behind it to get it going. Rocky Linux is now the second one. So now we've got two. And Peter, you had asked me in that other podcast whether I'd had a chance to try them.
Yes.
And so I have actually had a chance to try both of these now. And I will tell you that they are practically identical. And that makes sense because they're just taking the RHEL source code and compiling it. The idea is you should end up with the same basic thing except with logos and names changed. If they're doing their jobs right, that's what it should be. And so that is what I found. They are both basically identical. There are some different support features available from the different organizations, but I would say it's still too early to tell which one is going to stick around. That's really what this boils down to, is not who's doing great today, but who's going to be doing great 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I don't want to move infrastructure over to a platform that I don't know is going to be around. I need them to be able to support it. So now the two big players are out there. We do still have Oracle Linux and a couple others that are out there that are also RHEL clones. So time will be the test. And we'll see. Maybe by January we'll have a good idea of who can keep up with the patchwork.
Yeah.
You got to constantly update with all the security updates. Who's able to do that? And then somebody will kind of hit as the forerunner.
So what would you say is typically the main motivator for getting religious zealots to I'm Alma Linux and I will murder your family if you anything speaks against it, or no, it's Rocky Linux for me. Like, what causes that, and who's going to win that war in your estimation?
Well, you get that with other Linux distros where they're somewhat original, right? Like Ubuntu is a fork of Debian, right? Or it's based on the same code base.
Right.
But they're two very different operating systems. Config files are sometimes renamed. Package names don't always match. Certainly a different default install, right? Really different focus. Ubuntu's got the 6-month rolling release cycle. Debian, eventually we do a release cycle, a little bit different. So there's differences that make people really want to get religious over it, right? But when we're talking RHEL versus Alma Linux versus Rocky Linux versus CentOS, for most of them, you're just talking about a logo change. So it's which logo do you like better? But with actual RHEL, you can get commercial support and you have to pay for it. So it's got a little bit of a difference. So I doubt we'll see, and I'll be totally wrong, but I doubt we'll see religious wars break out over Alma versus Rocky.
Yeah.
But you never know. It just takes one of those dev teams to make a crazy decision. And sometimes it's not even related to the code, right? Like one will come up with a community standard of practice, right? Where they define community behavior.
They
that's
use the
allowed.
wrong IRC client, and then just you're in the crapper at that point.
Yep. And so something like that might happen. Hasn't happened yet.
No. Okay.
Yep.
All right, for our next article, I feel like Don wrote an AI that just made a headline that was just designed to screw with me. So I'm going to give this a try. Just for clarity's sake, before I start, 7nm, was that
Nanometer.
Nanometer. Okay, I was correct there. All right, we'll give this one a try.
Neuromicrons.
I thought it was nano monkeys.
Wait, it is nanometers?
It is nanometers.
Okay, because you said something else then. I can't tell when you guys are
Nutmeg.
screwing with me.
It's 7 nutmegs.
Okay, 7 nutmegs. It's a unit they use in Christmas time. All right, this one is from tomshardware.com. Intel to adopt SiFive's new high-performance P550 RISC-V cores with 7-nanometer platform. Up 7-nanometer Horse Creek with a $2 billion paddle. That's a great joke. I don't understand any of the words I just said. What happened?
Well, you almost had it perfect.
Okay, what did I miss?
It is RISC-V or RISC-V.
RISC-V is RISC-V. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, 5. Yeah, Roman numerals.
But most people do say RISC-V for whatever reason. But either one works. So basically, this is actually pretty big news. We have seen RISC processors kind of coming back to the forefront. many, many years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, in the early days of computing, processors really weren't that powerful. And so they had to use a reduced instruction set. They can only do simple things. But as processors got more advanced, we got complex instruction set, or CISC computers. And so what we use today, like our regular Intel, like our i5, i7, i3, whatever, the AMD processors, those are all CISC processors. They're complex. They handle large instruction sets. But when we had Spectre and Meltdown and all these things, there was that exploit in the management engine that was built into Intel CPUs, and everybody freaked out because it's a secret system running inside of your computer. Well, people really got concerned about that, and some projects and initiatives launched to create an open source CPU, a CPU where we had visibility into everything that happened inside of it. And the RISC-V or RISC-V architecture is one of the results of that. It's designed to be an open source CPU architecture where you can pull the full specs and see literally every single thing that CPU does. Well, in order to provide that, you need a reduced instruction set. You can't be too complex or it becomes too hard to document. Just ask Intel, where their documentation is constantly missing things. So, but in this case, RISC-V was one, and we just didn't know if it was going to make it, right? Open source projects like these are usually fine when they're software, but when they're hardware, the majority of the time they fail. Every now and then you get a Raspberry Pi that emerges, but even they're not completely open source. There's a few proprietary things on a Raspberry Pi. But with RISC-V, it is completely open. And so I think what we're seeing now is that they're showing that they're going to make it. The SiFive is a company that makes RISC-V based dev boards and things. They haven't mass produced anything on a huge scale, but it's been dev boards for developers who want to create operating systems that'll run on a RISC CPU and software applications, people like that. Well, Intel has taken note of it. And these new processors perform really, really well. They beat out ARM CPUs in a number of tests. And so they look like a potential future forward. And so Intel is buying into that. Intel's had a lot of problems lately with innovation. So they had put a ton of money into their 7-nanometer fabs, and they failed. They weren't able to create processors in the right yield amounts. And that allowed AMD to step forward and Apple with their M1s. And so all these people are now beating Intel. And so the writing's on the wall. They got to do something new. And it looks like they're going to be putting at least some of their bets on SiFive and their RISC-V processor. So we'll see what happens in the future.
7-nanometer fabs just made me think of 7-minute abs.
Yeah.
Way better than 8.
I always think of Robin Fab, the Milli Vanilli.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that the one that,
Yeah. I
said,
don't know which one.
I can't take the pressure of my foibles in life?
Yeah, it happens. So
where are these chips these days? I mean, are these in devices that I use? Chromebooks and regular laptops and things? Or?
No, but the odds are you do see them. So reduced instruction set is really popular with proprietary systems, industrial controls, like magnet locks on doors, things that are fairly simple or really super proprietary. You'll usually see a RISC processor in those. But over time, there's no reason a RISC processor can't be used for our desktop. It just typically hasn't been that way.
So is SiFive actually producing and manufacturing these chips?
They are.
But they're just not doing it in mass quantities, and Intel's looking to go,
right.
Oh, I can do that.
Intel is shifting gears a little bit, and they're saying, all right, we may have screwed up our own processors, but what if we offer to manufacture processors for other people? And so that's like their new business model they're looking into. So they may start mass producing them for SiFive.
That sounds cool.
All right. Well, now I can read that headline and know what all those words mean. That's fantastic. All right, next over from Phoronix.com. Intel's latest CPU microcode update isn't all that scary. So now we are talking about Intel side. So what is up with the microcode update?
All right, I mentioned Spectre and Meltdown a moment ago, unintentionally, but it kind of ties into this. You guys might remember when Spectre and Meltdown came out that they had to create some mitigation, some way to block that attack. And if you turned on those mitigations, it hurt the performance of your system. Sometimes upwards of 40% of your performance was eroded just to mitigate these attacks. And it led to many people thinking, is it actually worth it? And I'll say most of the time, no, it's not worth it. But for some people, they would choose to disable the attack mitigations to be able to get the system to run faster. Hey, a 40% performance boost is a pretty big deal. Well, on Wednesday, Intel rolled out another microcode update that patched a Spectre or a Meltdown-like attack. And many people started throwing messages out on Twitter and whatever else the kids use these days.
TikTok,
to say,
the TikToks.
on TikTok, about how, hey, your computer's going to start running slower on Wednesday. Watch out, Intel's screwing you again, and jump over to AMD. Well, the team over at Phoronix, which is really just Michael Larabelle. So Michael, he does performance benchmarks, and he's probably one of the best at it. He's always putting them out. He went in and took a look and did a test on the Microcode update. And what he showed after running his benchmarks across multiple different pieces of hardware that had all taken the update, that it's a very, very insignificant change. In fact, he makes the argument that it's not measurable, that it's within the standard deviation of a benchmark. And so it's not even a measurable amount at that point. So this latest one, if you hear people warning you, oh, make sure you don't take that latest Intel update, well, that's just FUD, right? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's not something you actually need to worry about.
So, Peter, we need to go ahead and cancel that TikTok where you were going to shuffle dance on Intel processors.
That's my bad.
So, put the ixnay on that.
We'll do a new one where I dance about RISC processors and
that'll be
in
good.
a positive way.
I like it.
There we go.
All right, good to know. All right, I want to show you, for those that are watching, this next one. I don't have the ad blocker.
You actually can't see the article
This is how
at
much
all.
of the headline I see. This is the article down here. It's the width of my fingernail. And the rest is an ad for Discover Card and T. Rowe Price.
And this is CNN, right?
This
It's
is
not like
CNN.
some fly-by-night.
As I scroll down, all of a sudden the ad starts to do a little vanishing act, but then I got to
CN
scroll
what?
back up to read the headline. So yeah, we're going to CNN.com for this next one. A new problem for Peloton owners: hacks. And the problem before was death, I believe, with the treadmills. So I feel like we're trending in the right direction. But what's the worst thing that can happen from a Peloton hack? That somebody tells you to keep pedaling, and then like until you just have a heart attack.
Would you like to play a game?
Yeah, like, don't stop yet. Oh my God, it's been 4 hours. Yeah.
So
When
it turns
Jigsaw's
out,
your Peloton instructor.
well, that'll motivate you, right?
You're going to go. Yeah, you go get them calories off.
So turns out that there is was a security vulnerability in Peloton cycles, and specifically in the really expensive ones, the ones that they use in your gym and other places. And I say your gym because I don't go to one. So actually, wait, Peter, don't you have a Peloton?
No, I use the Peloton app on a spin bike at home, but yeah, I wonder if that. I mean, I assume that wouldn't have the same vulnerabilities because that's on an iPhone.
The app
that's
is
gone
fine.
through different
Yep.
processes.
The app is fine, and the cheaper Peloton is fine. It's the more expensive one, the one that has the full camera where the trainer can see you, and you're participating in the class, doing that whole rigmarole.
Sure,
That's hard to say. So anyhow, there is a vulnerability, and if an attacker can get physical access to the Peloton,
Which is probably easier in a gym-like setting where people are in and out all the time. Yeah.
that it's fairly trivial for them to modify it so that they can have remote access to the video feed of the Peloton, so they can watch you work out, which is a
that's
little
fun.
bit creepy.
Yeah. It's so weird. People are weird. Like, why
Yeah.
would you want to watch somebody just work out? It's not like that's in any way entertaining.
Yeah, the places where people put cameras when they were
I
arrested.
don't
I'm
get
like,
it.
really? That?
Weirdos.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Personally, I'd put the camera in somebody's freezer so you can see every time they're getting dessert.
Yeah.
Hey, what
That's
are
just
you
practical.
doing?
That's practical.
Sticking jigsaw.
Well,
It's in
I mean,
my freezer.
I guess the good thing is here, in most cases, that if you have that bike and it's in that kind of setting, like a gym, a hotel, or something, these are already public places where, hey, if there's a camera watching you, you're already expecting other people to be in the room. But I mean, there is a chance, I guess, you could have this version in your home, and a worker could come in and put this code on your.
There's another attack vector here that they could replace, like the Netflix or Spotify apps that are run on the cycle. To be able to intercept your credentials or prompt you to re-enter your billing data or something like that and get it. So that would be a little more effort. But it goes back to the whole Internet of Things, that a lot of these devices that we have that are internet connected are just not as secure as you would think they would be. And Daniel, you've dealt with this, right? The IoT?
Yeah. We actually did a webinar on it and how you can like mess with these things. And yeah, they're really cool and they're super convenient, but a lot of times these IoT developers are not going forth with security in mind. They're just trying to get a product out and make the money. And that's understandable, but you as the consumer get to eat that as you bring that thing home, plug it into your network, and now all of a sudden you're exposing yourself because you just wanted to lose a few pounds on a really cool bike.
Literally exposing yourself.
Which very well may be the case.
Well, a lot of people, the Peloton's in the bedroom. It's next. So, if this is something that hits, the other versions of this device.
But you'd have to have
about
physical access, they said. So
for this specific thing, but it makes you just think about security for this kind of device. Like
going back to the freezer thing, though, now I want to take a Raspberry Pi and get some like holographic projectors and make that scene in Ghostbusters where Zool shows up in the freezer.
There's a little temple in the background.
Is there a temperature issue with that? Okay, will a Raspberry Pi work at those
I think
levels?
it would.
I think they go to like
warm,
negative 40 Celsius or something.
Yeah.
But is it going to make your freezer work overtime
you would
because
at
the
least
heat
be
it's
able to
putting
do
off?
it for a little bit of time, enough to film it and put it on TikTok.
Oh, sure. And maybe you could put the Raspberry in the back and just drill a little hole through.
there you go.
Your biggest challenge would be moisture.
Yeah.
That would you'd have to find some way to keep moisture off of it.
I would say that's my biggest challenge in life. Chafing.
I assumed it was suntan.
Speaking of cameras in the bedroom, I'm thinking about that now. I have the Alexa, the Echo Dot, the little ball that's got the camera, and every night I lay down next to that and look at the clock and go to sleep. Yeah,
You sleep a little sounder knowing that
Alexa's
Jeff Bezos
watching.
is watching out for you
from space.
He's like stroking a Persian cat.
Yeah. That's where I need. I have a webcam cover on this one. All I do in front of this thing's work. That's the one where I need. Yeah, because things happen there.
Thanks.
Sure, they do.
No, I'm not.
Moving on.
Yeah, nothing good. Yeah, you can see my spin bike from there, and it's obviously working well. I mean, look at me. All right, let's move on to our next segment, which today is That Makes No Sense.
It make no sense, it make no sense, it make no sense. What you talking about, Willis?
All right, this one comes to us from CBSNews.com. Extorted by ransomware gangs, the payments may be tax deductible.
As they should be.
And this just makes me think we are just rampant for tax fraud here. Just going, hey, I'm going to have to pay a little bit this month. Can you just cyber tech me real quick? I'm just going to send a little bit your way.
If I had to sum it up, it would just be we are screwed.
We as individuals, Americans,
a
people.
country,
Okay.
So the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, or wait, what do we call them now? Department of Homeland? No, it is still DHS.
Right.
DHS, yeah.
So the DHS has come out and said multiple times, do not pay the ransom. When you pay the ransom, that simply incentivizes the criminals to do this more. And we know people are paying the ransom left and right. We see about it in the news all the time. Well, it turns out some accountants did a little bit of digging, read through the tax law, and asked the IRS a few questions. And sure enough, it turns out that by the definition of an expense, you're spending money to restore services in your company. That means you can write off your ransom payment. And so now several senators are looking at this, and other professionals that are just in the security industry and saying...
Senators are saying, are all my extortion payments deductible?
Because, man, I get blackmailed like every day.
Yeah.
So they're looking at it and they're saying, how can we, on one hand, be telling people not to pay the ransom, and on the other hand, say, well, if you do pay it, you can write it off on your taxes. So it's created a bit of a mixed messaging,
conundrum?
I guess, a double standard.
A catch-22, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe if they said that your payments to a cyber insurance company were deductible, but all the cyber insurance company is doing in a lot of cases we found is just paying the ransom for you, right?
And I think all insurance is tax deductible, even for individuals. I don't think that's just a business thing.
Okay.
So I think so.
Did not know that.
Well, maybe
I'm
they should...
not an accountant. Let me throw that out. I'm not a CPA.
Can I tax deduct your ransom payments? That would be great.
There you go.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe they should make it so the expenses related to backing up your data is tax deductible.
So if I got to get like a drive or a cloud platform.
Yeah, so you're incentivized to do that way. Because right now you're saying, like, literally at the end of the year, it can go, hey, we got a little bit too much. Go ahead and hit me with one. I'll send you $1 million on the old Bitcoin, make a new wallet, send it back.
You make a top 10%, and you give me some of my money back, and everybody's happy.
Incentive is a big part of this, though, right? Like, let's back up to Peloton.
Yeah.
So they just had a security incident. So one response might be, hey, we should hire a code audit team, somebody who's reviewing our source code, our hardware, looking for exploits. Basically, what is an internal penetration test? Like a white box testing?
Like a white box test, yeah.
So testing that hardware, looking for security exploits, and really doubling down on that. We could spend $1 million a year to hire this team of people that do that, right? But what they're thinking is, we could do that, but we didn't lose any money on this, so we could not do that. And they're looking at the end of the pandemic. A lot of people bought Pelotons going into the pandemic. Like, well, I'm at home. I can work out now. Yeah. And so they're about to see a sales dip, and they're probably thinking, well, we dodged the bullet on this one. It's already patched, and that's that. And there's no incentive for them to roll that out. So you'd have to think of some way to incentivize that for companies. And unfortunately, the government usually takes a weird stance, like in the EU, where they said, the way we'll incentivize you is by creating huge penalties. And then that way, if you don't do your backups, if you get bad security practices put in place and you get hacked, you now have to pay these millions of dollars in fines. And so that's frustrating for small and medium business.
All right, I've got an idea. Maybe we take like China's model where
you shoot the people?
No, when you're hacked, the government just
Which
goes,
is not funny.
oh, let me just give you your data because we have all your data backed up anyway. So here's your data. So we all just send our data to the federal government.
Us?
And then they shoot us,
okay.
with a tank.
Yeah.
This podcast is no longer aired in China.
Yeah.
Because of that. But we just send all of our data to the U.S. government. They back it up and don't look at it because they pinky swear.
Yeah.
And then, they just give it
I
back
was
to us
thinking
when
like
we
we
need it.
do like a deep fake of people that didn't do that stuff. And then you get like all these actors deep faked out where it's like the head of the Department of Homeland Security, like beating the piss out of somebody that didn't do it with a stick, right? Just working them like they owe them money, right?
Yeah, see, I'm more carrot.
And they go,
you're
you
more
see
stick.
what happens to you when you don't back up. And it's like, oh, I'm going to go get that right now.
That reminds me of it was on Saturday Night Live. They had The Rock. He was like a anti-smoking product.
Nailed it.
And if you started to smoke,
he
he would
would
just like slap you in the face.
Yeah.
Seems effective.
It would work. It would work. I'm not smoking.
Well, we could take the force and the might of the American U.S. military and just turn them loose on people.
Just one good example.
Yeah.
Is all it takes.
Yeah,
Public display.
Hey, Equifax.
I think there are some things that the government has done, like the NIST guidance documents.
Yeah.
Those are really nice.
They are really
if
nice,
if you want suggestions on how to harden your network, you go to NIST. You can pull some of that, but it's kind of like just a start.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they expanded that out to include more in-depth security hardening guides or software packages and things. They used to do that. They really haven't released much recently, which is odd. So maybe they're working up something.
By the way, all that hitting people stuff was a joke. That's not real.
Disappointed. I no
Don't
longer
do that.
I no longer have the Beavis and Butthead clip on here, but when you said harden your network, I was gonna play there laughing. But oh well, I'll get that on.
That was not a joke. He really likes that.
Yeah. All right. Want to let you guys know about a webinar coming up. We're doing in the month of July. It will be CompTIA month here at IT Pro TV, where we're focusing on talking about those certifications. We're going to do a few of those interviews here on Technado as well. We're going to have Dr. James Stanger on here as well as others. But the first webinar is Explore Next Level CompTIA Cyber Security Certs. What makes sense for you? And that's with Patrick Lane, who is one of the guys in charge of helping put together those certs. So going to talk about those higher level CASP, CISA Plus, Pentest Plus, those kinds of things. So that one should be exciting, and that's Thursday, July 8th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Head over to itpro.tv/webinars, and you can sign up for that. And we'll have another CompTIA one later in the month as well. We've got all the archived ones there that you can check out as well, the ones from the past. And while you're on the internet, head over to technado.do, and you can see all our latest episodes. Send us some viewer mail or listener mail, and you can subscribe and find out all the great things about Technado there and look behind the scenes. And you can also hit the big orange button that says sponsored by IT Pro TV, and you can find out about a 30% off coupon code for the lifetime of your personal plan. You can also request a team trial for your business and find out all the great features available to teams from IT Pro TV. And did Dayon give either of you guys a note or anything? I told him I said, if you want to have a response to all the things I'm saying about you, because he was in town last week, I said, just hand Don or Daniel a note and we can read a statement.
Nothing.
No? Well,
Apparently he's not intimidated by you in any manner.
typical Croatian, just backing down from a... No, that's... I love the people.
Jokes again.
of Croatia.
Jokes.
Just not the one person. From
Happens to be.
Yeah, happens to be. In spite of his Croatianness, he's just a...
Actually, you would think because he's from Croatia, he would have been awesome.
You would expect that, but you'd be horribly wrong.
I'm enjoying the backpedaling, Peter.
Yeah. I have to issue an apology tomorrow. My apology will be on technado.com.
Yeah, go check that out.
Technado.com.
I sadly do not know anything of Croatia's history, so I don't know.
It was
They fought
Yugoslavia,
the
right?
Serbians, right? I know that. Right?
Well, Yugoslavia was all that.
Was it?
Bosnia, Serbia,
There was a lot of crazy things that happened after the breakup
Montenegro.
of the USSR. So
Herzegovina.
Herzegovina.
Bosnia-Herzegovina, yeah.
That place. Beautiful, though. Beautiful.
So they say.
All right. Well, we've made it through the storm. Thank you to Andrew from ThreatX for joining us earlier. Thank you guys. Don, I think you're off next week, but
Yep.
I think we're going to get a special guest in here, and we'll talk a little bit about the expected Microsoft announcements coming soon. So we will see you guys next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.